me go ahead and share my screen here real quick, kind of jump into that. Would love to kind of hear just your current situation, I guess, just at the moment. That will kind of help base my feedback to you as well. I did look, kind of your background, I guess. Are you currently employed? Is that correct?
Yeah, so I'm currently employed at Dos Rios. So basically what happened is I was at IQVIA Life Sciences, and that was a programming arm. We had all the software developers down in Seattle across from Amazon doing all the programming. And around April 20th, it was really expensive for them. This was a global company, literally in 50 countries. I mean, global company. And we were all the programming parts. So like our parking was $30,000 a year, and it became really expensive. And then they took the time right around pandemic to shut down the Seattle office. And they moved a lot of the programming offshore to various places, India. India's gotten expensive, actually. So I needed a job, and this is a colleague that I've known for a while, and I've actually done some work with before. So they do film production and marketing, but they do a lot of internal videos for like Microsoft, who might want to be testing a new product, like, whatever, device. And it would be my job to pull the panel, get the people together, that kind of thing.
Okay. And so would you consider this kind of like a stopgap until you kind of find that next opportunity, or what kind of?
Yeah, that's the one thing there's two things about my resume I've wondered. I've got what I would say employers have told me a lot of great experience. But it kind of works in different verticals, right? The Hartman Group was CPG. I know that looks old. That was where I did the bulk of my actual research. I flew 1.5 million miles. So I left it on there, but it's CPG, food, retail, and then it goes up to Microsoft, where I was running sort of, I guess you'd say operations development research. Then it goes to the Centric Brand Anthropology, where that's an agency, and I was working, doing projects for Amazon. I did all the early work for the Amazon drone projects. And then I ended up in life sciences. So that's one thing I wondered about, is it looks a little bit all over the board. I think it's a string, but
Yeah, we can jump into that a little bit. So maybe a better question that I can ask is, as you go through the motions, right, of the job search, what is your ideal role? Like, is it one of these that you really enjoyed as far as the duties and responsibilities? Not so much the culture of the company, right, and those aspects, but was there a certain role here that you really thought was you enjoyed going to work, right, and working on that?
Yeah, so a couple of answers. I'm a researcher at heart. The one thing that rolls through all of these roles is research. I taught research and did research of all kinds when I was in grad school. In terms of the roles, I would say the Hartman Group, just because I was there a long time and got to do a wide variety of projects in everything you could imagine. There's that, and I would say IQVIA, life science position. And I say that because this is the other thing, is I don't mind doing market research, but I'm kind of at the place in my career where I'm a little bit above that, where, like, if you look at that QV role, I was more of what they call competitive insights. So I was like, pulling 10Ks and doing all kinds of things to look at our competitors and our place in the marketplace, that kind of thing. So I don't know if that answers your question. I love market research, but I'm kind of at the career trajectory of that, so I'm one level above. But personally, I would prefer to do market research. It's just that it's changed a lot. It used to be you went and did projects, and now people use dashboards.
Yep. And I'll have to apologize. I'm not as familiar, with this market. So when you are, out and I guess, are you active in your job search? I mean, are you on like the LinkedIn's, Indeed, or what is kind of your approach right now? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm active.
Okay. And are you getting responses and interviews, or what does kind of that look like?
So I was getting a striking amount of hits.
Okay.
Before everything went to hybrid, before that,
Okay.
I was getting like 60 to 70% of the people would respond, or they would put so and so viewed your profile. So I'm
Mhm.
not convinced that there's an ATS situation going on here.
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
if you have suggestions, that's great,
Sure.
but I didn't find that. I mean,
Yep.
the volume of interviews, phone screenings, and that did not suggest that I was
Okay.
ATS.
Not getting hit. Okay. And so the reason that, either haven't accepted a role or haven't, moved to that final stage for the offer, what do you feel like has been kind of the biggest, holdback there?
Well, every one of them has been different. I think that in some ways I'm overqualified. I'm above a senior manager but low a director.
Okay.
And I think every time it was something different
Okay.
to start with.
Okay.
I think my issue is age and overqualification in some cases.
Mhm.
Like I typically my salary in the past roles was like $120,000, and I
Mhm.
just applied for a $70,000 job because it was a startup, and I thought I could leave a big imprint, kind of like I did really
Mhm.
with IQVIA and Dos Rios.
Yep.
And then they told me they went with someone in Mexico because it was cheaper.
Okay. Mhm.
So does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I think that, well, it sounds like yes and no, right? So I think that there's maybe not a very like black and white, reasoning on, why, right? It's not the compensation isn't aligned. It sounds like you're being pretty open to that. It doesn't sound like everyone requires you to be on site and you're not open to on site. At least I don't hear that. But so it sounds like it's kind of a hodgepodge of, each one's unique on
Well,
why.
yeah, everything hit at once when
Mhm.
all of a sudden everything went to hybrid. The hits went way down.
Okay.
I can't be on site unless it's Seattle. I can't just pick up. In fact, I didn't have the fuzzy thing on my background. You can see the room is a mess.
Yeah, you're good. Mhm.
But so I can do Seattle, but I can't, relocate.
Right.
And the hybrid thing hit.
Mhm.
And there was one other thing I was going to mention. Can't remember at the moment. You went through several things.
Yeah, I was going to say I think I mentioned kind of the salary, yeah, you talked about the hybrid versus remote piece of that, and then just I guess kind of bad potential fit. But
Oh, okay. Why not? Yeah. I mean, well, first of all, the multiple rounds is sometimes absurd. Like
yep,
I had 8 rounds at one place. It never used to be that way. But
yep,
I got down to the last one or two candidates 4 or 5 times. And here's one thing. It's not necessary, but without getting too technical, there's a software called SPSS. It's used
hmm,
to analyze data,
yeah,
to do, people like, right, you have your data set of people and they've answered the questions. So
yep,
I use that, but there's a new one called R. And so I
yep,
lost out on one job because they decided they wanted someone to teach the company R.
okay,
So there's some kind of a skill set that sometimes is a problem. Like I don't write SQL code. I do know how to program,
hmm,
but I don't have like top-notch skills in things like R or S or SQL, things like that. That's sometimes been an issue.
yeah, okay. Well, let's jump through this, and hopefully maybe I can give you just a few ideas. Like I said, generally speaking, aesthetically, your resume looks very good. So I don't see really any major changes. I think there's some things that we can suggest here. You can decide if you want to utilize those or not. But so one kind of just helpful thing that I would always say is add a zip code here. The only reason I say that, and it doesn't have to be your zip code, it can just be a Seattle, zip code. It really helps the recruiter when they bring it into the tracking system. On a lot of people do kind of radius searches. So that's just really kind of like a nice thing to have to help the recruiter. So again, don't need to have your full address, but just kind of city, state, and zip. That's just kind of an industry thing that really is helpful. It won't make or break if somebody interviews you. It's just kind of it's like, oh, that's nice that they did that. So kind of just starts the resume review on a right step there.
I'm going to put my work address, zip code.
Yep. And I think that's good. Yeah. So we really recommend kind of three core things here. The big thing is we see a lot of people applying to the wrong roles. In your case, I'm not sure that's the problem potentially. Sounds like you're getting a decent amount of interviews, and there's enough interest on their end to perform the interview. So I think kind of reflecting on those, there's probably something happening that they're seeking in the role that they feel like maybe you have some experience with, but then when you guys talk, it sounds like maybe there's some connection there that is it's not quite there yet from a technical perspective, is what I'm thinking, right? I'm not sitting in on these interviews. So one of the big things that I like to recommend, and you kind of started this, I think there's probably a better way to hone in on this, but so you have a summary section, and I think that's okay. What I would recommend under the summary is putting an accomplishments section. And so the way I would probably make that look, I'm just kind of going off the cuff here, is you have your summary. I almost wonder if something like this, and you want it to kind of stand out. Looks like I misspelled that. And then, I kind of like the way that looks. So you still have your summary, but you're also combining like, hey, here is the top 3 to 5 things that I accomplished in my career. And these need to be very specific, right? And so what I wouldn't want to see is 20 years in heavy research, right? Because that's more of a summary thing, right?
Well, that's what you did. It's not what you accomplished.
Correct. So if there's like something really awesome that you did here, right, for this organization that is applicable, right, to the industry, I think I would put that here, right? If there's 1 or 2 things that you really did here that were, whether it's for the customer, the consumer, or whoever, right, that was just really, really impactful.
Can I ask you, launched and embedded an entire thing within an organization? That seems like reasonable.
Yep.
I mean, I know they say try to use numbers, but the rest of those things aren't really, I don't think, accomplishments necessarily. Yeah. Actually, they were accomplishments.
Yep. Yeah. So I think something like that. So when you're in sales, or maybe a direct line manager, sometimes it's a little bit easier to come up with metrics and numbers, kind of KPIs. When you're in tech or marketing or research, sometimes it's a little bit harder to come up with quantifiable things. But so what you mentioned here, I think is really good. Honestly, I think it's good to have it in both places, right? So wherever that accomplishment is, right, you would list it here, but you also want to keep it under whatever job, right, that it happened at. So just rewrite this, right, so it doesn't look like it's the exact same that you would put up here. So basically just restate what you're saying. If this is the one you use, restate that and put it up here, right? And you can use AI. I use Jasper for stuff, so I could easily just say improve writing, right? It's going to basically rewrite that and say the same thing. You can use ChatGPT or Bard or whatever, and then I would maybe go down to probably about 13. I don't know if I'd go much further back unless there was really something that was amazing that happened here that you feel like that's a highlight of your career. Right.
Well, see, that's the challenge. I basically created Whole Foods 365. I raised Target's revenue by $15 million a year simply by telling them that they didn't understand that birthdays are not scattered evenly.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. That's going back pretty far.
All right. It's a big, people know the name, right? It's a big number. I think that is a accomplishment that you should be proud of. You have that experience. It's not like you couldn't leverage that experience that you did that in, right? Like you have those experiences. Now, is somebody going to hire you for that? Who knows, right? But at least I understand, again, what I see here is I know this is a well known brand, right? And I know that that's a big number. Okay. And so to me, those really speak to your accomplishments. And like I said,
Yeah, okay. And I can use for Centigram Anthropology, I did all of the original research for the Amazon Air and the Echo platform.
is there anything impactful about that though?
Well, I was a consultant, so if
Mhm.
once Amazon, there's 5 buildings with
Yeah.
the 10,000 employees, so I don't know.
Yeah, so I think something like that is a little bit harder to list as
Okay.
an accomplishment. I think that if anything, you could list out some of it more in your summary. Does that make sense? And so when I say that, these are, again, we love industries in a resume. I would almost put, so depending on where this is at, I would almost put the organizations in parentheses there. So like if I don't know, do you consider that under product? Is that the Amazon where that fell under industry?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I would just do something like that. I would put your Amazon, was it Echo? Sorry, I try to remember without looking down.
Is it okay to duplicate that down below? Because otherwise I don't have anything to say.
Yeah, because you got to remember, like, I mean, I may not even get to that part of your resume, right?
Yeah,
So
okay.
as a recruiter, I'm relying on a Boolean search. I don't know if I'm sure you're familiar with Boolean, but it's like and or functions, because I know that my job, I need these 6 things. Okay. So if that hits and your resume pulls in, then I'm just doing a quick look at like, okay, how does job history look, right? If the manager's like, hey, I don't want somebody that's had 3 jobs in the last 3 years, like I'm quickly vetting for that, right? I'm looking at your titles, but I'm not really reading this stuff until you and I have a conversation, right? Then I invest more time in that. But if I can say real quickly, right, like I see like Amazon jumped out at me, whatever, Whole Foods maybe jumps out at me, and then you have your career accomplishments, like I'm like, okay, that's interesting, right? Because it's right, it's when you get into web development, right? They talk about your heroes section and kind of above the fold. This is your above the fold before I have to start scrolling down to look at what you've done. So just think about that. Again, you don't need more than 3, or no more than 5, but three's a good number as well. So if 3 is all you can think of, then just, that's good enough. Don't stretch it to try to hit 5.
Yeah, I think what I said is embedded the program for Acuvia. I did the same thing for Dos Rios, but at a lower level. Dos Rios is not a $50 billion company, whatever. So I would leave that off, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's kind of that. Again, these are kind of the big things we look at. I think you're really, with the addition of that, the only thing that I'm going to add here, so you have your contact details, right? You have your LinkedIn profile, which most recruiters appreciate. I think it's good. You have obviously company name and dates. So the one thing that I like to recommend is put a 2 to 4 sentence company summary under each organization. So here, like I would want to know, what is Dos Rios film production, right? And that's basically, you can take that from their website. Again, you can ask AI now at this point, like, please explain what Dos Rios film production does to a 5th grader, right? However you want to say that. The nice thing about that is that gives you keywords, right, that potentially could hit from a recruiting perspective. And it also helps me understand, like, I don't know what Dos Rios film does, right? I kind of have an idea based on the name, but like maybe I'm hiring for something in film production, and by having a description of what they are, right, who they are, that really helps me maybe move the needle, right, and say, okay, Jared's really a pretty good fit because of that. So don't make the recruiter go out and basically Google all these, right? Make it very, very easy for them to understand it. So there's really 2 wins there. Like I said, the keywords that could potentially pull in, and also it helps me understand what this organization's doing.
Now, the first bullet point seems to do that.
Yep. So you can do that. So here's kind of, and that's just for Dos Rios. I don't know if I saw that for the rest of them, but I don't know. This may not work. Please describe what company. We'll just keep it at that.
So you would keep that above the title senior manager, marketing brand, and
Yeah, I would keep it above, right next to the actual organization. So I'm going to get rid of this here. Oh, it's going to apply it twice. Whoops. Okay, so I think this is your description, right? So keep that in mind that this is your description. And this says, so you don't have to put the name again. You can if you want, right? So I know this is a full service production and marketing agency based in Austin, Texas. The company specializes in creating powerful virtual stories for film, television, commercials, and web content with an experienced team of filmmakers, creative directors, blah, 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 blah. At your disposal, Dos Rios provides comprehensive solutions for all aspects of production and marketing needs, from concept development, execution. Their services include story development, pre-production planning, location scouting, casting, and all that. Brand new website development. Okay. So to me, there's now I really understand like what they do. Okay. So again, this is optional. It does, again, from all of our experience, this definitely adds value. But so if I take this out, and I like to keep it italicized, because it breaks that up. This one, kind of job titles, we like to bold, but keep it also italic. So push that back over.
Yeah, it's one thing I worry about. If I start adding a paragraph to each of these, that I'll run out of space.
Yeah, I think that the more like current stuff though is the most important. So, and I don't know, that may be a different font. No, it's not a different font. To me, like that just really helps kind of nail down exactly like what they do. See, when you don't italicize like that, to me, it looks a little bit wonky. It just kind of breaks it up in kind of a description of what they do. But there's so many like benefits to like, because now you have pre-production planning, you have casting, production management, you have web development, you have digital media in there, marketing strategy, which you may have already, your design and brand. So these are just all like keywords that potentially could pull in, television, commercial. So if I'm saying, hey, I want to find a researcher that has experience in the television industry, I'm not sure television is going to pull up right on your resume as written without this. So if somebody's actively out searching for you, you're not being found because they're saying, hey, I have to have somebody with television knowledge, right? Or commercials or whatever. So again, and then within that, they're going to pick whatever other keywords they need, right? And that's kind of where you jump into this section. Maybe they need somebody with UX or some SPSS, right? Other aspects, but so just something to think about. You can strip this down a little bit, right? So there's tools out there. I mean, you can say, hey, oh gosh, sorry.
Well, it's okay. Are you going to send me this afterwards?
I can, yeah, because I have it saved, right? So I can just say, hey, make this shorter, right? If you're worried about it getting real long. So again, that's the like shorter version of it. The problem is, in my opinion, is we're kind of back to what you put down, right? I'm missing a lot of kind of keywords there. Now,
I can figure that out.
Yep, this is getting to like close to being a little bit too long. So if this was any longer, I would start to pull some of this stuff out. Maybe like this section, I would pull that out because I don't know if I need to know that they have filmmakers, creative directors, all that.
Well,
stuff.
Yeah, and that's actually, I think, hurting my job a little bit because I do market research and they do commercials and films, and I've had to talk to them actually because my colleague is having the same problems I am, and he does videos for things like the Rolling Stones and big production, but a lot of the bread and butter is just commercials for Microsoft. So he and I have gone back and forth about like how to do that. And so one thing is I can see how as I go down the resume, that chunk of text might get lower and lower. Like, what is IQVIA? It's the biggest life sciences company in the world that sells drug commercialization technology and clinical work. Boom. That is pretty straightforward.
Same. Same with that. Same with that. And then, so one other thing I'm going to suggest here is because, in your role, right, there are some technical aspects, right? Let's just say you have 3. So statically, that's kind of the way it's going to work. Look, I really like to have, if you feel like, again, when and this is something that you have to answer because I don't know your skill set as well, right, in that market. But if there are 100% technical skills that you need to have to do your job, right? That's what needs to go in here. So if there's technical skills that you feel like employers will hire you for because you have that knowledge, then that's what goes in here. If these are just like generic things that you've had exposure to, or describe the environment, I would pull those out, and I would suggest doing something like this where it says, okay, here's the environment, right? And that is, it was agile. It was, you wouldn't use waterfall probably with that. You have Six Sigma, we used Jura, we used Confluent, we used, it was a Java shop. Anything that you had kind of, again, I'm not hiring you for a Java role, right? I understand that. But if you can help, if you're building this one's a little bit tougher, but I know you'd mentioned kind of a SaaS solution, right? A CRM. So like, were you, in your job, let's just do it for this role. So, were you using maybe Tableau? Were you using Salesforce? Were you using, let's say, Scrum methodology, right? Whatever that is, again, these are things that I'm not going to necessarily interview you against, right? I don't expect you to have that knowledge, right? You're not a Tableau developer, but were these systems that you were using to do your job? Okay. And so maybe that's, maybe you were having in ChatGPT, right? I don't know what it is, right? I know you're not a prompt engineer. I know you're not ChatGPT expert, but like, were these tools that you were using in the environment that you've had exposure to, right? And so that's something to think about. And so if there's things in this section that are kind of part of that, so like I take Tableau as an example, like, are you an expert in Tableau, right? Or is that just kind of the environment you had to use it, in one of these jobs, right? If it's just, I had to use it in one of these jobs, I know how to use it. To me, like, it's probably better served here where like technical, I kind of like technical strengths here. And for me, that's really kind of, depending on what it is, you can either break it out just by technologies. So like in bullet points and maybe 2 to 3 columns. So if it's like analytical skills, conjoint analysis, pricing, research, blah, blah, blah. I kind of like the way you have it here. So I'm probably not going to recommend the columns. So advanced experience with analytics. So that's good. Extensive experience with UX and voice of the consumer. Traditional skills. Okay. And then software-based skills. So like, I'm probably going to expect you at kind of your level to have Microsoft Office experience and also Google, right, Workspace experience, which I'm assuming you're just referring to like Gmail, the spreadsheet.
Yeah. Well, we're already adding a lot of stuff to this. So I think I might just get rid of the whole thing and maybe even the extensive work with UX and voice of the consumer. Because you realize we're adding to what was already a full resume.
Yep. But here's what I would say: with the amount of experience you have, there's nothing wrong with 3 pages. Okay. You could also take this down. You're at 12. I mean, you could easily take this down to 11, 10.5 and play with the font a little bit to get it down to 2 pages easily just by doing that.
I'm not questioning you,
no, it's all right.
I've heard 3 pages is death. Unless you're vice president. I've heard like if you're a VP or executive director.
Yeah, I've never had anybody passed on because of their length of their resume.
Okay, that's why I was asking you. I wasn't like questioning.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of little things you can play with. Like I said, I think just by doing the font, I mean, you can do. I mean, we'll get you to 2 right here probably, and then by adjusting the font to 11. So we're just have education. So you'd be about 2.5. Let's just do this.
Yeah, I can fiddle with.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that you could easily just by shrinking that, you're at 2. I would keep these at 11 or 12, whatever you want to do. Sorry, 12, just to kind of keep a little bit of structure there. But all the font under that, I mean, those can go to 11 or 10.5. and it's not going to be too small for the reader. That font's pretty small, so maybe 11.5 is good for that one. Yeah, to me that looks aesthetically clean.
You said 11.5 is okay?
Yeah, I like 11.5 with that actual font that you're using. Yep.
Okay. Another question real quick. There's several things about my education. One is I have been like on Reddit boards and other discussion sessions with people who said that companies, and I found this out myself, companies get nervous with PhDs because they think they're either pointy-headed geeks who just raise all kinds of problems, or that they're overeducated or they're overqualified. Now, of course, I took the dates off, right, for age discrimination. But, technically, I got a master's along the way to my PhD. So part of me wondered if that looked either awkward or intimidating or.
No, I mean, I think what happens when people start putting like PhD here, if the job that you're going for requires a PhD, then I think you need to make it very well known. And I was going to say you should probably throw it right here in this section. Based on my understanding, the PhD, is not required in most of the jobs that you're going after. So I don't think it hurts you. I mean, it's education. People love education. I think I'd keep it at the bottom like you had it. I don't know if I would.
Oh, yeah.
Font it. I wouldn't put the acronyms after your name, but I don't think it really should be hurting you. I would leave it. If you have a master's, I mean, it's going to take up more space, but I don't think it's that.
Well, I just meant leave it at a terminal master's, not even put PhD.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably take this stuff out, right? Because what you did, and if you're not going for PhD level job, your dissertation and all the things, right, that you studied aren't really as applicable. So okay. I think you could easily just get rid of that. And now, I mean, right now you're at 2 and I haven't even adjusted the rest of it. And that just keeps it simple.
Yeah, I think I'll just stay with the PhD because that's what it is. I mean, I wouldn't be lying to say I had a master's degree because I do.
Yep.
But I think I'll just go ahead and leave it at that. I don't think that it's the deal breaker.
Yep. No, I don't think so either.
Okay.
Yeah. I was trying to see if there's anything else there. That's really the big ones.
Would you center the summary and career accomplishments or put those on, like, should I put all of the headings on the left or in the center? Or
I'm almost kind of thinking you don't. So I'm just playing with a few ideas based on how I think it may look. I would either do this, right? Take out the summary, and I understand that's your summary and obviously align it in the middle. Or, you go back to what you had. And I don't think, middle's probably fine. I don't think that's going to be make or break. I think either one looks fine. Whatever you feel comfortable with there. I'm okay with that in the middle. I'm okay with it to the left side here too.
Okay. Do you think I can get away with everything on the left, but on summary, just put the summary without a title?
I do, because people understand that you have the line, it's the break, and people that are looking at resumes on a day-to-day basis understand this is your summary, right? A lot of times we'll see this too. People will do, I'm not seeing my borders for some reason. But what I was going to say is I was basically just going to add a bottom line here. And then sometimes that will break it up. Then that could be an option. I was going to see if I could just draw a line for you too, but
I like it the way it looks, actually.
So yeah, something just kind of like that.
Oh, okay, that looks good too.
Yeah, I would close that gap just a little bit, but a lot of times we'll see that and do that in resumes, so something like that. So then that's your summary. So
that sounds great. Do we have time to look at the LinkedIn thing?
Yeah, let's do that. So before we kind of jump into it, just because I don't think I saw it, it's kind of did. So for the LinkedIn profile, the biggest thing that I think people lose traction on is this piece right here. So in your headline, you want to have the either current title or the title that you want to go after. So in your case, if that is the current title that you want to go after, right, and that is your title, then that's great. If it's not, whatever that is, that should go right here, right? Like you kind of have. So you have more experience in this. Like I want your actual job title. So, right, if that's senior manager of market research and strategy, okay, then what we like to see is a line to break it up and then list out those company or those industries that you have experience in.
So there should be the title.
Yep. So either current job title or the job title you want. And then you already have this right here. So keep that. And then it should be the industries that you have experience in. So maybe that's, and use the most common term. So like life sciences, right? I'm trying to think what Whole Foods probably classifies under. Probably retail, I would imagine, is how they classify. This may be film production. And it's real easy. You can just go click on their LinkedIn profile and you'll see. So they fall under media production. Most of the companies will select how they want to identify as. So they actually put hospitals and healthcare. I don't know if that's right or life sciences. That use your best judgment. Sorry,
yeah, would these all go up here, like over and
right
over?
Here. So market research, that goes away. So let's just say senior manager in market is your job title, right? So all the rest of this goes away. You have your little line, right? And then after that line, you put the industries that you have experience in, and not specific like Amazon and all those things. It doesn't hurt to put Amazon and Microsoft because they're pretty big names, right? If you want to throw those in there, but generally speaking, you want to use the industry because that's what people are going to search for. And so when I come across your profile, right, those are going to be the first things that I see before I even open up your profile. And if I know I'm looking for somebody with CPG experience, that is a senior manager in research, like I know right away that I probably want to talk to you.
Okay, so the LinkedIn job title of what I'm looking for, then the straight bar that says the industry. And so like what I say.
So it would look just like this right here without the quote.
Okay. And can you send me that too?
Yep, I'll send you this doc too. So like as this person, so they're looking for cybersecurity analyst positions, and they have experience in the commodities industries, the insurance industry, CPG, right, consumer product goods, and then food production.
I got it. So we don't have to put each job title or each job.
Just one job title, and then the handful of industries that you have and that's why I like kind of clicking on each one, because when companies set up their LinkedIn profile, they actually have to select an industry that LinkedIn allows them to select, because they actually have these in drop-down lists for recruiters to search. So like, Microsoft is, software development. That one's tough. You could put software development as an industry, or you can put more specific to the kind of product line maybe that you were supporting as a consultant, which could be more retail or whatever that you'd have to kind of figure that one out on Microsoft.
Well, it would be technology devices. It'd be like, that's what I was working on there. Yep. So, but you said it might help to have Amazon and Microsoft up in there.
Yeah, I think I would put Amazon and Microsoft because they're big names and those hold some weight. So.
And where would they go?
I would put them with the industries. So, it would look maybe a little bit funny, but, again, I would probably put them just after this, and then you would put Microsoft after that. So you'd have your main industries, and then after that, Microsoft and Amazon.
Okay. One last thing, I think. Yeah. I keep saying that. So the titles, you can see there's no title that's the same on there. And a lot of the titles, a lot of organizations these days don't like, they want to pretend they're horizontal. So like a lot of my titles are made up. I mean, like my boss said, make up a title that reflects what you do, right? Yep. So they're not made up, they're not like, I'm a vice president like that. So, I mean, senior market research manager is kind of a common title, but do you see how all the words are kind of the same?
I think it's fine. I think it's fine. I mean, because a lot of times when you look at an engineer, I mean, they're cybersecurity engineer, cybersecurity analyst. So, most people get hired for what their experience is in, right? So titles don't change as much. To me, it's like, hey, this person is into, right, insights, they're into research, they're into strategy. So, I mean, if I'm looking for this skill set, I mean, I would assume that you should have job titles around that. So yeah, no, you're good.
Well, I think think I'd put market research and strategy because I could see if I put research and strategy, that could, I don't know how your software works or, how focused it is, but if I put research and strategy, that could be like life sciences people who you're working with petri dishes,
Yeah. So luckily there's going to be other things that I'm going to, as recruiters, we use to narrow down, right, what that person is. And so maybe it's SPSS, right, or R as an example, right? I know you said you kind of ran into that. So there's other things that I'm looking for outside of job title that I'm looking for, right? And industry verticals, right, are some of those things that you have listed here. Again, as you kind of describe some of your accomplishments on your resume, those are going to be things that I'm also going to, see and search for. So again, I wouldn't get worried, too hung up on the like, hey, I'm just going to keep getting like, yes. Let me take a step back. Lazy recruiters, they will hit your inbox, right, with really bad job offerings because of the market research and strategy. And like you said, it's doing something in life science that's probably more like hands-on, chemical, almost type oriented. You just have to ignore those, right? That's kind of just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. But when people are reaching out to you, a good recruiter will say, in the job title, subject line, right, like here's kind of the title that we have that we're looking for. Here's maybe the industry, here's kind of the compensation. And so those are the ones that you really want to hone in on. But if you're getting, the feel that it's way outside of what you do, you just have to ignore those messages.
Okay. They have the ability to reach out to me. I have the ability to reach out to them.
So I'm talking holistically in general, not specific to Enjoy Mondays, the platform that we're building.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
This is more just as a whole, the whole hiring.
General recommendations.
Yeah, talent acquisition, HR, staffing companies, all that. Yeah, because what's going to happen, right? So a recruiting firm, I'll just show you this. I'm not hiding anything, right? It's not really a industry secret. So let's say I get a job, right, and I need to go find somebody. What happens is I have all these fields, right? These are paid functions, right? You don't have access to this unless you pay for it. But I can search by job titles, right? And I can do current or past. I can do a variety of different job titles. I can do your location. I can select your schools, your industries. I can write out a really sophisticated, keyword. I can do based on how many current employer, like how long you've been there, like how many years of experience, right? So I can really like focus on, the type of person I want. Like if I want somebody to come from, a company of 50 employees or less, I can do that. Really what we're trying to do with a LinkedIn profile is make sure, and a resume, right? Basically your LinkedIn profile should reflect your resume. Just kind of keep that in mind. So in your about section here, that's going to be this section right here, whatever you fill in right there. That's your new about section. Okay. So that will adjust just a little bit. Okay. So that's a lot. You kind of have it, right? But I think I would narrow it down and I would, whatever you come up with here, that goes there.
Career accomplishments should go there?
Yes. Yep. So the summary and accomplishments, right? And you already have some achievements it looks like that you put down, but I would tighten them up with 3 to 5 based on what we talked about here today.
And they can be repeated under the company, right?
Correct. Yep. Just adjust the wording a little bit so it doesn't look like you just copy and pasted. That's the big thing. Like I said, you're trying to, all these filters, you're trying to make sure that your profile, gets found, assuming that it is the right fit. Because a lot of times when we build out Boolean strings, we have 3 to 6 and functions, and then we have all these ors for different technologies. So without those details, you may get lost in there. So
okay.
Yep. So I can send you kind of this, this resume that we kind of toyed around with, and then make sure you save it as a copy because it will get deleted at some point. And then I'll send you also kind of this little cheat sheet for just make sure you get found and update your resume.
Do you have a way to update the LinkedIn? And I think I have it down.
Yeah. So really, I can't do it on my end, but so when you log into your profile over here, you just go to edit. There should be edit options, and then you can just add it to it. Is that what you mean? How to edit this stuff?
So, okay, can you scroll up a second? So,
like here, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So job title, media production industries. Okay. And then we're below that.
Yep. So I'll just show you. So if I was going to edit on my profile, so you have these edit options here, and then So right here is where your headline would be.
Okay.
So
Can
that's
you
what
go
you
back to your profile
Yeah, sure.
so I can take a snapshot?
Yeah, so you probably don't want to use my profile as a perfect example because I'm not really trying to be found as a job seeker. But my purpose of my LinkedIn profile is more for business development, right? And so I'm not necessarily wanting to be found by recruiters. But
Okay. So you're just talking about what you did, whereas I should be there saying my job title, media production industries, blah blah
yeah,
blah.
yeah.
And I don't need this talks about because I don't play in that game, right?
Correct. Yep. So my profile is a little bit built a little bit different, and so that's why I kind of suggest that maybe to not copy my profile. So I think if you stick to kind of what we talked about, you'll get that headline updated, just kind of where I showed you there with that edit button. You can scroll down, just update it there. Then you should be good. And then to update your about section, it should be right here. So that's where you would just do your career accomplishments and your summary that we talked about. And then I think for the rest of the sections, like under the jobs, you don't need to put the company, like all that stuff that we talked about, like here on your resume. You don't need to do that on your LinkedIn profile.
Right.
So you probably don't need to touch the bullet point too much on your LinkedIn profile.
So can we see mine real quick?
Yep, just went back.
So I would under about. Wait, you're saying I don't need that many?
Yep. So I was saying, so for this section right here, I don't think you need to touch any of the job sections right here. I think you have enough details in there. What I would do is basically delete all that, right? All this. Whoops, sorry. And I would just put in your summary here. I would keep like career accomplishments like it's written here, and then your 3 to 5 bullet points.
Wait, so accomplishments or achievements,
yep.
And then 3 to 5 bullet points.
Yep. So this section right here, when you build that out, copy that and just paste that right in the about section.
Okay, I got that. Does the broad strengths and skills need to be there?
I wouldn't.
Okay.
If you think this is important, this technical skills, you can keep that in there.
No, I don't think. I think that can go. Not there. That can go elsewhere. But how many did you say? There's only I have too many bullet points per job.
No, I think you're good. I don't feel overwhelmed by that.
Broad strength and skills. Is that on my profile that way?
No, that is not on your resume.
You pasted it. You pasted it. Okay. Good. I was like, I don't remember that. So technical strengths I can get rid of. Oh no, on the on the LinkedIn.
So keep that. I just got rid of like the Microsoft Office and Google Workspace. But
one quick question: if I want, sometimes when you're applying, it says portfolio. Well, in my world, we produce reports, right? Like, where do I house that? I tried putting it on G Drive, but the actual URL was incredibly long, and so I mean, I could theoretically link it, right? Just put highlight the word and go to Microsoft Word and put link. But how do people where do they store their profiles?
So do you feel like you need a portfolio? Or are people asking for that from you?
Well, sometimes it's when you're doing an actual job application, it'll say LinkedIn, and then a space, and you put your LinkedIn credentials or whatever, and then it'll say portfolio, and then it'll have a space for a URL. And I'm saying the URL is ridiculously long, so I'm wondering if I should just make it a hot link. And
so first and foremost, they're using that as a general term, and that's usually more for like a web designer, web developer that has a portfolio of their work, graphic designer, things like that. So it's used across all their openings. I would imagine in kind of your skill set, nobody really carries a portfolio per se. So I don't think you need to do that. If you do, honestly, the easiest way is just Google Drive, create a folder, share that link, right? That anybody with this link can open it. And then that link, just do like a URL shortener, and then it'll shorten it.
How do you do a URL shortener?
Yeah, so I think Google got rid of theirs. No, I believe they discontinued. I thought they discontinued that.
Okay, so just go to tiniest. I can figure it out.
Yeah,
I can figure it out.
Yeah, just Google best URL shortener. But basically what happens here, right, is so then you take we'll just call it this one right here. So that's my long URL. And then I'm going to.
That's from like Google Drive or whatever.
Yeah. So you can just say, hey, this is Jarrett. I won't use your full name because I don't want to steal it from you. And then just shorten. And then this is kind of your own custom Google Drive folder URL if you want to use that. And then you just store that somewhere that you have it where you can save it.
But it could just be a document on G Drive, right? I don't have to.
Yeah, if it's just one document, then and then grab that URL and then throw it in here. And then you have, again, more of it could be Jarrett's portfolio at the end of it, or whatever you want to say, right?
Yeah, I figured it wasn't that important that they've got a lot that they're just going to scan through. And I didn't think it was a deal breaker, but I thought it would just be nice to have something to throw in there.
Sure. Yeah, if you have something that you think is applicable, it doesn't hurt. That's for sure. So, but that's all that I really wanted to cover. Hopefully, you got at least a few takeaways, and hopefully, it wasn't too much information for you.
Well, I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. It was nice chatting with you. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out. You have my email, and enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, thanks a lot.
Yep, take care.